Hey, peace and blessings, everybody. Thank you so much for bearing with us coming on. We finished dinner a little late, so we're done now. I just want to come on and encourage you that if you have some issues that you want to discuss with somebody about grief and sadness or loss, reach out to someone. Don't hesitate. You don't have to go through it by yourself because you're not alone. We're all experiencing some form of loss at some point in time. So we're here for each other. So what I do want to do is go ahead and open up in prayer, and then we'll get started. Father God, we thank you for this opportunity to come together. We ask you to move by your spirit, to lead us, guide us, and teach us of all things. Father, we ask you to help us, strengthen us where we're weak, and be the light that we need, Father, and help us to be light. Help us to help each other as we go through. So, Father, thank you for this time. Bless all the hearers and the doers of your word. Lead and guide us into the space that you want us to be in at the time, the appointed time. So, Father, we thank you. This we pray in your Son, Jesus, Yeshua name. Amen. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I have a couple of topics that people have told me that they wanted to talk about. So we're going to touch a little bit on them tonight. One of the topics is when you're grieving or you're witnessing somebody that is grieving, how can you help? So if you're the person that's going through, the best thing that you can do is find some trusted source that you can talk to and get it out. If someone comes to you and they ask you to be that trusted source and you have the capacity to be there for them, to support them in that time, I have a list that comes from our class from grief.com with David Kessler, and it talks about how to be with people in grief. So I'm just going to go through the list and share with you some of the ways that you can help when someone comes to you about grieving. And again, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Devin Knighton. I go by Nicole on social media. And the whole point of me being here is just to help shed some light on grief from my own personal experience and from some of the training that I received. I'm going from our notebook from grief.com. It's a training with being a grief educator with David Kessler. But I always tell you to reach out to someone that, you know, if you're not getting what you need here, you can inbox me or reach out to me directly. But also keep reaching out until you find the right person that will help you get to the next level. Because from my experience, from the people that I've lost, in the beginning, it was very, very hard to get to the next step. And so I'm finally in a space where I can talk and help somebody else through what they're going through. Yes, I get emotional when I hear sad news. Yes, I sometimes put myself in their shoes based on my own experience. But I'm here to help in any way possible. So that's it. We're going to go ahead and get started. A disclaimer is that I am not a licensed therapist or, you know, I'm not licensed. I went through a training. And so I'm a coach, and I coach by the training and my own life experience. All right. So how to be with people in grief. Let go of expectations. I think that goes beyond just in grief. That is in life. Letting go of expectations when it comes to people, because people do what they want to do when they want to do it. You can have expectations for yourself, what you want to do and what you want to accomplish. But to say what somebody else will and won't do, that is very challenging unless this person have proved themselves. People sometimes have a history of coming and going or being inconsistent or whatever it is, but you can tell people by the fruit they bear. So if someone is always coming to you telling you one thing but doing something different, then you have to go on what the actions are, because the fruit is going to be their actions. So let go of expectations. You don't know how different people may want to express themselves during grief. Some people like to cry. Some people like to talk. Some people don't talk. Some people can become very standoffish. It just depends. So if all of us are helping or attempting to help by supporting the people that we know, like our immediate family or our friends. Based on these things that we've learned, it may make life a little bit better for all of us. But do understand, you may not be able to help the person that's closest to you. You may not be able to help your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your best friend during the time of grieving. You may not be able to reach them, and that is okay, because that's what other people are here for. So give room for people to, pick and choose who they want to deal with during those times. Another good thing is to listen. Allow that person to speak their truth or their from their space of hurt, pain, grief, whatever they believe. Let them at least get it out. And that somewhat is freeing when you're expressing your emotions. If they're angry about it and they want to say they're angry, or they want to fuss and they want to cry, give them a moment to get that out, and then have the opportunity to go back if it's presented. Sometimes they may just go off on you and you may not ever be able to talk to them again. But if they're in a space of grief, you want to just give room to that. Allow them to be who they are and where they are. So I talked about last week about different states of grief, different timelines, which everyone grieves differently, and you can have some of the same emotions during the same, during one space of grieving or another space. Your emotions can always mix up. We're human, and you can, experience different parts of grief at different times or all at the same time. So just letting that person be where they are for that moment, sometimes it's all it takes. It's just for the moment to get it out. We also talked about if things last longer than, the year, and it's getting worse. You may want to reach out at that time. You cannot perform your normal duties. You may want to reach out to someone to get some extra help. Allow them to feel what they feel. Emotions come as they want. So you cannot say, oh, well, you shouldn't be still crying about that, or you still shouldn't be upset about that. People can feel however they want to feel for whatever reason they want to feel it. The best thing that we can do is give them that time to work through that. And if there's a better time to come back and address some things, let's do that. But if not, it is okay. Something that I talk about, and this is a faith-based talk that I do, because I do believe in Jesus Christ and God. And I also say that one man plant, another waters, and God gives the increase. From that scripture, that text, we can't do everything. We can't be everything to everyone. So we do what we can. Let's say if you had a loss and I was wanting to support you. Well, I may not be the person that can come and be with you at the funeral. I cannot help you get dressed or whatever, but I might come by a couple months later to just check on you to see how you're doing or have a conversation. I might come and bring you some lunch or bring you a Coca-Cola, whatever it is, just to say, hey, I was thinking about you. Those type of actions are so much appreciated in their own timing, because I've learned over the years when things happen, I would usually just be like, oh, what do we need to do? What's this? What's that? And I've learned from experience that sometimes you just need a little space to get this. You have things that you have to take care of. You have arrangements. You have, people that's coming from all over, and calls and texts and everything going on from work. And sometimes you just need a little space. So giving people that space, letting everybody serve their purpose. You don't have to try to be everything. That's the beautiful thing about having a community of people who love you and support you. Sometimes people will say that they just feel lost after a death of a loved one. And it says that if they're lost, allow them to feel lost. Only they can find their way out. I saw a movie one time about that. This lady fell into this deep depression, and she could not get a grip out of it. And a person tried and tried and tried, to get her, and it was just so hard. But on the end, it was something that reminded her of, something that made her snap back. I tell you this, that if people have lost their way or if they may feel lost, pray for that person. Do not stop praying. Prayer changes things. Pray without ceasing. Keep going to God for that person, because you might be strong in that area and they may be weak, and you can help them. So pray. You may not pray with them if they're not in a space they want to pray with you, but you can always pray for them. And that is so significant, because sometimes I feel when people be praying for me, because I just feel things shifting around me. I'm like, oh, thank God, somebody praying for me, because I couldn't see my way to get out of it. And, I would have conversations with them. I'm like, I know you're praying, because I could feel it. Like, keep praying. Keep praying for people. And pray for yourself. When you're going through it, you might feel lost. And, it may not be just necessarily you lost a loved one. We're talking about people that we've lost, but relationships. That's something that you may have found yourself lost. Someone you might have expected to help you, love you, support you, may have not been able to fulfill that. And you feel like, what am I supposed to do now? Go to God in prayer. Talk to him about everything. Continue to just put it all out, because you can't do life alone. We were not meant to be alone. So continue to pray. Ask God for help. Ask God to lead and guide you to the right people. Those are the things that you need to do if you want to get from one step to the next. Their grief is not about you. That is something that is so big, because sometimes we can make things about us. And it's like, oh, well, and it's not about us. A lot of times we talk to people and we have to just step back a little bit and let them talk. Just let them talk. And that awkward silence is okay. That used to bother me. I'm like, oh, somebody need to say something, do something. No, just let the silence be. Let the people talk and say what they need to say. It might even make sense to you, but just let them get it out. Sometimes just getting it out is what you need. Let them say what they need to say and not make it about you. Even if they lash out, don't think it's just about you. They might have just lost their sister, and you might say something and they might not agree with what you said, and it's fresh. The sister just passed away. Give them time and just let them talk. That has always been a challenge for me, because I always want to encourage people. God is this, God is that, God is going to do it. He is. But sometimes they may not be in that space to hear it. And so what we do is we let them talk. I've even learned to ask people, do you want me to say anything, back to what you said? Or are you just getting it out? How do you want me to be with you? That is so significant. If I would have known that like 20 years ago, I think it would have just been amazing. But I know it now. So asking people, how do you want me to respond? How do you want me to be with you? I think that is just big, because it gives people that time to make a decision on what they really need. And I've learned a lot of people are very honest. They'll tell you, well, I just want to vent. I'm just venting, y'all. I don't need no solutions. It was a young lady said that last week. We were talking, and she said, y'all, I'm just venting. Because, if you are one of those people that's used to fixing stuff, you're like, oh, well, how can I help her? No, just let people talk. Some people just need to just get it out and let them do it. So thank you, Manisha, for joining. That's true. Just let them talk. Thank you for your comments. So the next thing it says, validate their thoughts and feelings. That takes some growth to do, because if you don't really know how to validate your own thoughts, it's hard to validate other people's thoughts. So take some time out to get to know yourself better so you can help other people. Validation, a lot of times, is what people just want, to feel better, to have a sense of belonging. But you really have to know how to do that. And some people just may not be in that space to validate. But if you are, that's great. Thank you, Willie, for joining. Validate the magnitude of their loss. Validate their story. Validate their timing. Giving people the space they need to say, hey, this is fresh. You just lost your sibling or your best friend. You just lost them. Give yourself some time to work through the process. You can't just say, oh, well, it's going to be better tomorrow. It may not get better tomorrow. It may not get better for months. And that's okay. Because if it's not better for them, you're still praying for that person, and you're still asking God to keep them, to watch over them, to help them during the process. So giving people that space and still supporting, you might be able to support from a distance. You might be able to send a text message. You might be able to go by and ride by the house, take them some groceries, check on them, whatever, you may think might work is great. But asking them what could help you during this time, that is another treasure that I have learned. Asking people, hey, how can I help you today? We had a friend that just lost 2 loved ones in a week. And asking them, what can I do? What can I do to help you? Because I know you have a lot going on. What can I do? They may say nothing right now. Then they may call later and say, hey, can you come do this or can you do that? Talking to people and asking them, what do you want, is a great space to start. Be present. Be present. Allow them to talk. Not have a lot of things going on. The cell phones are a big distraction. We talk to people and they're talking and we on our phones at the same time. Or we have kids, doing stuff and we're trying to talk to them and all that. Just take a moment and cut everything off and just be present. Sit with that person just for a moment to see what's really going on if you want to help. If you're the one that needs to be helping, just let them know, hey, I just need a moment where me and you could just talk one-on-one. Communication is a beautiful piece of life. Talking and being honest, saying, hey, I need this or I need that, that helps. So do that. Be patient. Be willing to sit with their pain. Sometimes people can experience grief or loss, and we give them that time frame that I was talking about earlier, and we think it should be over in 6 months. So I'm gonna leave them alone, give them about 6 months, and then go back, and they're still where they started off at. A lot of times that's because they haven't gotten it off their chest. They haven't had their grief witnessed by someone who can handle that. So if you come across someone that you think, they're in the same spot I left them in last time, maybe sit with them and let them talk to you. Be the listening ear to let them just get it out. Let them share with you what they have going on. If you have that capacity, like I said, everybody's not made that way. But if you can sit with somebody and just let them talk to you and tell you what it is, not picking up their burden where it weighs so heavy on you. When they give it to you, you take it to the Lord in prayer. Don't try to walk around and carry everybody's weight, because that's not what it is. Keep giving it to God every time. Every time they give you a list of stuff that's going on, went wrong, immediately go to God. Because when you try to carry that stuff on your own, you run yourself crazy. So always keep giving it back to Him, giving it back to Him. Let go of your own discomfort and awkwardness. Sometimes I know when I've been around people grieving, I used to be like, oh, I can't sit with you because I'm gonna be hollering worse than them. Well, you know what? That may happen. You're not going there to do that. And you may not be the one that needs to go. You could be the one, or you may not need to be the one. Sometimes it just depends on who it is. So being true to yourself and always asking yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? That will lead and guide you too. Because sometimes you just go just to be going, like, I'm gonna just go show up. Well, you might just need to show up at home and stay home, because if you're going out there for just to show up and not have any true concern or compassion, you may just need to sit this one out and let somebody else go and help in a different way. It's not always where you have to be the one to go. I learned that. You don't have to be the one to go. You might be able to help some other way. So just always self-evaluate to say, am I more beneficial in this way, or am I more beneficial in this way to assist? Thanks, Tanisha, for joining. All right. Let go of your own need to think of something comforting or clever to say. You know how you go and, you come to let's just say you go over to the house to visit, and you might want to take something over there. And, we'll say stuff like, well, they're with God, or they're in a better place, and this, and, those words of comfort. You don't have to say anything sometimes. Just sit there and be quiet. You don't have to say anything. Because sometimes saying those things doesn't help the person. It just makes it worse. 9 times out of 10, some of these people now, they go off on you. They're like, I don't want him with God. I want him with me. They're angry. They're upset. So, you just have to find a way to say, let me take time to just give them space. I might just want to go and sit with them and check on them. I saw this person who had lost their son, and when I tell you, they were the kindest person that I have ever met. They were trying to take care of other people, and I was like, this lady just lost her son, but she was so kind. And I just sat there, quietly, and I was like, just let me know whatever you want me to do. And she was just so nice and calm. And that I wasn't really used to that, because I'm used to people when they grieve, everybody crying and falling out or mad, super emotional. This lady was just so peaceful, and it taught me a lot on how to be. Because something we learned in this grief class is that what you learn, grief sometimes can be a learned behavior. So growing up, when our grandmother passed away, we were seeing all the grown people. They were crying and falling out. So we were crying and falling out. Nobody was calm and just nice and kind. They were mad and fussing and all kind of stuff. So we were like, well, that's how you're supposed to be when somebody dies. So every time somebody died, we was always howling, falling out, crying, whoa, we don't know what to do. But now, since I've had more training and learning and life experience and being around other different type of people, I've learned that when someone passes away, it doesn't have to be a devastating experience. It doesn't have to be all of us hollering and falling out on the floor and screaming and kicking and crying. My understanding of God more has helped me to know that we're not here to stay. This is we're just passing through. So knowing that this is not my home is making it easier to see when people leave. Okay, that was their time to go. There's nothing I could do to, bring them back. So I'm at more peace with death now than I have been. Now to say, am I going to holler and cry? If something happened to somebody, absolutely. I'm still probably going to holler and cry. But it's not going to be the same where it just takes me out. It just do this because I have a better understanding now. And that's from an encounter with God and learning how he loves and how he restores, and he's near the brokenhearted. That's just taking some time. So it's good to know that Denisha said it's more people out here, and it's everyone's job to help. It is everyone's job to help. We don't have to stand back and just observe anymore. We can help in different ways. I remember going to some funerals growing up, and it would be a group of people just standing to the side watching everything. Like, just watching and pointing and talking and all that. And I'm like, why did they come? Them some spectators. And if people were more sincere and have more compassion when it comes to being honest with themselves and then others, it would be a better experience for a lot more people. So that's the part, just really being sincere. Why are we here? What are we doing? Why are we showing up? Mirror their tone. That's something I'm learning to do. People are, sometimes I get very excited and I be yelling and talking loud and all that. But I'm learning to, some people are quiet and calm. And if they are quiet and calm, bring my tone down to quiet and calm. Following their lead, honoring their timing, honoring their need for space. Those are things that we talked about previously. Making sure we take time to just give space to people. This is just how we're supporting people now with grief and expressing what we need in the time of our own grief. Remember that thoughts and feelings aren't always rational. That is very powerful, because sometimes people will say things like, I remember in our class, they talked about a lady who would be afraid to drive home. And she would be afraid to drive home this one way, because she felt like if she goes the same way, something was going to happen to her. And so the people were like, and she would go all out the way just to get home. And so the people were like, just because that happened to your family member, that doesn't mean it's going to happen to you. So you don't have to drive out your way an extra 30 minutes to go home every day when you can just take the street. And it was so hard for her to make that adjustment. So one of the people were like, hey, I'll go with you and I'll ride with you to go down that street, just to have that safety net. So a lot of people were saying, you know, that wasn't rational for her. That was irrational. Sometimes death can bring out irrational things. You can think all kind of things that you wouldn't normally think. That death is sometimes hard for people to really deal with and put into focus as reality. So finding ways to support people and comfort them during the loss is a plus. You don't need to make them feel better. You may not be able to make them feel better anyway. By talking to them, showing up, coming up, they might still be in that space. That has to happen in their timing and when they want to let go. But I will tell you this, the sooner you can get into a space where you are willing to open your heart for other options of release, that does help. Releasing the hurt, the immediate hurt, because I have witnessed where myself and others have held on to the hurt and pain because it was comfortable. It was like, I still feel like that person was close to me because I was hurting so bad and painful. Pain was still going on. But when I realized that I can release that and I can give that up, that's when I started healing. Just like with sores, you know, if you have a sore that's really hurting and painful or whatever, it's usually in the fresh stage and it's still, you know, it's still fresh and you're trying to get it to heal. But when it starts getting better, you feel less pain. Sometimes people will reopen the sore or the wound and keep it going. But the sooner you realize that I want to let this heal, get better, you know, you're doing it from a space of clarity where you say, I can be better, then it starts feeling better. But you have to make that decision on where you are. Most of the power is in your hands. What do you want to do? Even with, you know, loss of loved ones, relationships, jobs, you know, taking that time to have that conversation with yourself and evaluate to see what's going on. Can I get better? Can this be better? Is this the right choice? Is this the wrong choice? You know, those are things that you can evaluate. It says, we honor their need for space, remembering the thoughts and feelings aren't always rational. You don't need to make them feel better. Be comfortable with silence. I mentioned that earlier. Giving them that, the silence doesn't have to be awkward. Just be quiet for a minute. Let stuff just go. You know, just let it go. That helps. Ask directly, how can you support them? I said that earlier. You need to be direct. Ask questions. What do you need from me? I have a pastor that is very direct, very loving and caring. The tone is very, you know, calming. It's not, you rarely see him all over the place. He does get excited, but you rarely see him just over the top. But he will ask you, what do I need to do? How can I help you? How can I help the situation? And I love that. Like, it's not all that extra, you know, it's just to the point. And I'm learning to appreciate more of that. As I get better, I'm learning to appreciate control of my emotions and control of the environment. Like, it doesn't have to be all chaotic all the time. That's one of my goals, like peace. I love peace. And the more I keep learning about God and I keep, you know, reading his word, I understand that he's a Prince of Peace and we can have peace. So I'm grateful for that. Don't judge. You never know why people do what they do. So judging them is a waste of time. What you can do is find out how you can help, how you can support. And when it comes to knowing right from wrong, whatever the word says, go based on what the word says in its entirety and support in that way. Commenting on how well they are doing is judging. So if a person, you know, he's like, man, you look rough, or man, you look like you're going through it. That might be true. But is that something that they want to hear at the time? You know, it depends on your relationship with that person. I have a cousin that I can talk to and we'd be like, girl, you look rough today, or girl, you know, you all right? We can talk like that and we, you know, we understand it. But when grief is a part of the picture, you may not be able to say some of the things that you think you can say. So being supportive, showing up for that person from a sincere place. Your sincerity may not even mean a hill of beans to them, but long as you knew that you were coming from that place of care and concern, you don't have to argue with yourself about it. People can think and take whatever they want to take, but as long as you know that you meant well, you were coming from this place of care and concern, then you'll have peace within yourself. Now, what people decide and all that, that's a whole nother situation. But I always strive to have peace from within and really get, the best understanding that I can. Don't compare. Don't compare how somebody should be doing. Let's say if you have two friends and they both lost their siblings in the space of a year, and you say, well, so-and-so, it didn't take her this long to get over it, or she don't be over here crying every day, or she don't be doing all this, and you just can't get it together. Keep your mouth closed. Don't compare people in their space of grief. Don't say, oh, well, I went to this service and it was so, they weren't doing all that, or they were doing this and y'all ain't doing nothing. Let people be. Let them be. Because if they're grieving and they're in a hard space where they can really get everything on track, it's going to be hard for them to understand what you're saying anyway. So supporting people, you may even have the support from a distance, but don't compare. Don't bring that to them with how they should. It also says don't try to fix it. And some people would say, oh, I know how you feel, or if I was in your shoes and all that. You really don't know. So don't try to imagine, in that airspace where you're like, oh, I don't know. Because you were not there in that person's situation during the time that they loved that person, when they, fussed and had arguments with that person. You don't know the whole dynamic of the relationship. So you don't have to be that. You don't have to come and present yourself as, oh, I can imagine, or this is what happened to me. You know what? Whatever you want me to do, I'm here. That's one of the best lines that you can use, because when you go in trying to fix the person and put yourself in their shoes, it's a very hard place to be, because you haven't been there. You don't know the whole story. So support them from the distance. Go back to that question. How can I help you? What can I assist with? Don't pressure them to talk about it if they don't want to. Sometimes it may take months before somebody will talk about what happened. But like I said, if it goes on beyond a year time frame, or, if it's really looking bad, they're not doing what they need to do, the general things like eating and taking care of themselves and taking care of like the bills and all that type of stuff, then, reach out, see if you can get some help, get somebody involved that can help them or identify where they are and get them back to a state of living again. Because that's something I had to realize with our training. Sometimes when people lose a loved one, they just check out and they stop doing everything. And I can attest to that, because I almost stopped doing everything. I was like, you know what, this is too much. So give them that space. If they don't want to talk, it's okay. Just if they're okay with you showing up, to check on them, just go where you can. You don't have to be everything. Just be what you can be to them. Don't project your beliefs onto them. Some people don't believe the same things that you believe, and that's okay. While they're grieving, remember when I said they may not want to hear what you have to say, or they may not want to do anything that you tell them, you still can pray for them, because God is the one that touches people's hearts and talks to their hearts. So those are the things that you need to do if you want to be helpful or be with people in grief. Those are some things that are on the list that you can also find on grief.com. You can talk to them and see how it goes with those options I've given you tonight. Some of them will work, some of them will not work. That's the beautiful thing about people. They're different. You can't say just because it worked for her, it's going to work for her. You give people time, and you'll just allow them to be who they are. Everybody has a different background, different belief system, but you can show love, and that's it. And I really believe that love is better when it's coming from a sincere place. I keep saying that because it's so true. People can feel or connect with you when it's from that sincere place. So if you have any questions, you can go ahead and put them in the group. That was mostly what we wanted to talk about. I am going to touch on a space where we talked about grieving people or grieving situations that may not have resulted in death. I'm just going to talk briefly on that. So if you have a question or anything, go ahead and put it in the chat. Some people may have been in a relationship and they feel as if that relationship has come to an end, and they don't know how to maneuver their feelings and emotions, and they're not sure how to be after that. And I just want to give a little bit of advice is that your hurt and your pain that you experience is valid. It is real. And it's not just in your head, it's in your whole body, your whole being. Because if you were in love with this person, then the cut off or the end of the relationship, it can be very devastating. So what I will say is that take the time to write out what that person meant to you. And this can apply to also to the loss of a loved one, but somebody actually asked me to talk about this. You write out what that person meant to you, who that person was, what they did, everything you loved about them, everything you hated about them, everything. Just write it out. And then start looking at it. And then pray over all of that. So if this person was kind and charming and sweet and attractive and all that, write it all down and then talk to God about it and tell God exactly how you feel. One thing I have learned about being in relationship with God, in right relationship, is worshiping in spirit and in truth. And the truth side of it is that sometimes we feel like we don't have to tell God the whole story, but we really do need to confess the whole thing to him so he can hear us out. And it helps us because we're giving it to him. We're not saying we can control that piece of it. So talking to God, giving it to him and saying, hey, this is how I felt about this person. I was deeply in love with this person and it didn't work out. I need you to move. I need you to heal my broken heart. I need you to allow me to have peace about it. Going to God, I don't care how many times you need to go to God about it. Go to him and talk to him until it feels better. If you need to cry, cry. If you need to holler, holler. Whatever you need to do, talk to God about it and keep going to him about it until it gets better. It reminds me of a story in the Bible where this lady was asking the king. She kept asking him for something over and over and over. And he said, just because she aggravating him or she keep asking me, just give her what she want. So whatever you need from God, people say, oh, well, you asked him one time, you don't have to ask him again. Well, you can keep asking and keep praying. But be mindful of what you're asking him and what are you praying for? Because you asking him for that person to come back and that may not be in his will, but you asking him for peace about the situation that surpasses all understanding. That's in his will. Pray and ask him for that. God, give me peace. I still want this person and I don't know how to deal with it. I don't know how to handle it, but I know you know. So can you give me peace about it? Can you help me to move on? Can you help me to have peace of mind and make good decisions? Those are things that you can pray for and ask God for. So take time to write it out and look at it and pray over it. That's one step. And then having a conversation with someone about it. You don't have to go through it alone. Talking to a trusted source where you can say, this is how I felt about this person. This is what I want to do. This is what I feel like should have happened. Just be honest. You can be honest. Like I said, somebody who you trust, who don't throw stuff back up in your face and all that, because that's a waste of time. But keep talking, keep believing, and go to God. He is the answer. I'm going to always tell people that. I've tried to do things without him, and I failed big, miserably. So going to him and asking him to help you is the only way. If you think of any other questions, or you want to talk directly about a topic or something, just send me a message and we can go from there. But that's all we have for tonight, people. I hope this helped. We'll come back with some more topics. Monday night talks. We're doing Grief Talks at 10. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I pray that you're blessed. All right. Have a good night. Love you. Bye.